Cryptosomniacs, what's happening? Welcome to another episode of Trader Talk Live. Today we have got Amal and Sneh and myself here in the corner, going to just talk about basic market stuff. We want to start making this a regular show. So welcome to the chat. What's happening, JZ Drift, Dave the Destroyer, Stud Muffin first. Winning hard. All right, Life Size Box, what's happening? Great seeing you at the Litecoin Summit. And how's everybody else doing today? Did you guys have a good weekend? Any freak out moments from from last night till Monday morning?
Oh man, all good things. All good things. The market is moving exactly as it should.
Yes, indeed. Well, yeah, had a couple of things we wanted to talk about. Where did those get deleted? No, there they are. Okay, great. So yeah, just a couple of things that we are going to discuss. No, Mr. Lee is not dead, but there was some interesting news that came out where he basically just admitted that he sold everything at the top so that he didn't have to work anymore. Not because it was a conflict of interest, not because of anything else. So I thought that was pretty humorous. I'll do a full report on the Litecoin Summit, but I will say Charlie Lee got me sold on at least one use case for Litecoin, and that it is a test network for Bitcoin. I don't know that that's a real use case, but at least they can implement SegWit and potentially Lightning and et cetera to make sure that it does work before they put it into Bitcoin. So I guess there's a use case for Litecoin after all, and I take it back that there's no use case.
but that's so dumb though. Like what? You're just gonna say, hey, we're a beta for any Bitcoin, so let's tokenize it and sell it? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, it is pretty ridiculous. So I mean, yeah, you tokenized a beta network, and yeah, other than that, like I said, I mean, it is faster, and if Bitcoin starts going up to massively expensive transaction times, maybe again it has some use case just because it is a fiat on ramp. But other than that, it's a lot of band-aids and stuff. So duct tape, temporary solutions. I don't know. I don't really see it as being a necessary thing for the market. What do you think, Amal? What are your opinions on Litecoin? I rant about it all the time.
Yeah, Litecoin used to be something interesting back in the day. Around maybe middle of last year, even end of last year. But I think one of the things that we're supposed to discuss tonight is what exactly is the purpose and the point of existence of some of these projects, right? Like, are they just there to just suck money out of the average retail investor and pretty much give them no hopes of, any return or maybe some return? Or are they just essentially giving you, I don't know, false exuberance of, maybe crypto being bigger than it really is, or Bitcoin or some of these projects bigger than they should be? And I think that's what you're seeing right now being, put into the market in terms of price action and the test that, okay, how much can we really pummel these coins till they just fade into nothing, right? And the ones that do emerge, just like the ones that, stayed alive after 2014 and 15 and 16, some of these will come out, strong into 2020. But you'll also see some other ones where you're just going to wonder, like, why the hell was this ever even a thing, I mean, I'm surprised Dogecoin has made it thus far.
Community support, I mean, that's specifically, as much as I hate on Dogecoin, I think it does speak to the resilience of their community, or the dedication of their community, because, yeah, I mean, I think I looked at, if I'm not mistaken, I did look, and there was actually somewhat of a recent commit on their GitHub, so maybe people are building on it again, but I had looked, and there was nothing new happening, and the community behind it was still just like, oh, Dogecoin, and I don't know, I think it's it just goes to show that if ultimately, isn't that kind of adoption? Even if it's just among themselves, I guess that does have a use case in the Doge community. I don't know. I mean, it ultimately, until it's widely accepted and usable everywhere.
Just think about it like this, okay? Dogecoin and IOTA have the same volume.
Yeah. That's insane.
Dogecoin has more volume. I'm just going to count it down, all right? Then Tezos, then Binance Coin, 4 times the volume as NEM, more volume than VeChain, more volume than Omise Go, 4 times the volume of Lisk, 4 times the volume of Bitcoin Gold, like 9 times the volume of Bitcoin, Decred, Nano, BitShares, just everything else that you could think of. Icon, just way more volume than any of these.
See, that just tells me that, you know, Dogecoin isn't really there for anything except the purpose of moving, you know, money from impatient retail investors to the, you know, more patient ones, right? The ones that really know how to trade versus the ones that don't, you know? So now it's like a game of, you know, let's use these projects to essentially give out the illusion that this is something, you know, actually worth investing in crypto, but it's really nothing more than a vehicle to trade assets that people, the average retail investor, thinks that they can make money off of, but typically they end up losing it, you know, because it has no purpose.
Yeah, that's, I mean, you know, I think that's pretty much what I think about a number of these things is they're obvious money grabs. I mean, we've got 1,970 currencies on the market right now. You know, how many of those, and this is something else. So I talked to a number of different projects, and so we've got the EOSs, we've got the, you know, we've got the Ethereums, obviously, all these number of platform coins, yet more and more keep coming to market, right? They keep bringing more platform coins to market, and I'm just like, at a certain point, if the only point of Ethereum was to allow ICOs to launch, what do we need any more platforms for, unless they specifically do solve the scaling solution?
Yeah. Yeah.
I completely agree. I completely agree. And especially these platforms like, you know, like Lisk and Arc and a lot of these smaller platforms, you know, I think 2019, end of 2018 will be the rise of the DApp. Honestly, I don't think these blockchains will survive that much longer. You know, like I think VeChain will survive. I think Walton Chain will survive. Things with inherent use cases that actually need their own blockchain. But I don't know if things like you know, like these smaller like Cardano, EOS, all these little platforms that aren't Ethereum, I think they're going to be eradicated from the market.
Yeah.
Yeah, CoinRedder says development is lacking. It seems like that's kind of what I was thinking. Is, you know, I keep seeing these new projects come out, and I know you guys all read a lot of white papers. I read so many white papers that I'm like, what? I can't even tell the difference, other than maybe they've got a different.
Yeah, you get super numb.
Their consensus algorithm is slightly different here and there, but I read so many things that are just, I can't tell what the differentiator would be, and at a certain point, what is the point of continuing to launch platforms if you're not getting applications built on top of these platforms and protocols? So
yeah, I completely agree.
So what do you think? What do you think would start to? I mean, what? How do I say? Is like what do you think would instigate some of these developers to start building dApps? I mean, are ICOs over? I guess that was the topic I wanted to talk about. So I mean, are ICOs over? Is it going to get to the point where they're like, we can't do this anymore because we can't have any more platforms coming into the market? We need to actually build on the platforms that exist. They're still going to have ICOs, perhaps. Maybe they all go to security tokens. But you know, what is it, do you think, that's going to incentivize people to start actually building the dApps rather than trying to build the token? Because it seems to me like a lot of people are going with the mining theory, right? Where it's, if you're, the people making the money in the gold rush are not the miners and they're not the panners, but it's the people selling the picks and the hammers, right? So it seems like that's what a lot of people went towards with the protocols, but we still need some actual people to go dig for the gold, right? To build the dApps.
It was actually kind of funny, you know, I went to Token Fest, which was huge, you know, like around 3,500 people. And then I also went to 2 other like quote unquote pitch competitions for Monarch. And the fact is, you know, it was just crazy that, hey, we have a product out before we're, you know, essentially done with raising or anything like that we're currently in development. And that was kind of, you know, I felt like the hot girl at the bar a little bit, you know, where you know, a lot of people were focusing on us because, you know, we have a product out before we raised a dime. But to that avail, it is it's super interesting to see other projects that are just like a dollar and a dream, without any sort of development schedule or anything, any sort of product out there, or even like a beta or even like any sort of mock photos. It was kind of absurd to me that people are still raising like this. Like I said, co-founded is a cryptocurrency that launched in 2017, early 2017. Or it was like kind of like the end of the 2017, where they are a fundraising project, right? All they do is they fundraise on their platform, and they just shut down because they said ICOs are dead. Everyone's going the private route. Well, it was just like a kind of glorified exit scam, but I still think that ICOs are alive. It's just people have become a lot more picky, a lot more picky. People have lost a lot of money.
Well, I think it makes sense, right? I mean, you can only have so many competitors in the market before it just becomes dilution, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree, man. I think I would kind of agree with Sneh here. Like, I don't know necessarily if ICOs are dead for now, but that, when it comes to market cycles, like ICOs are the first to go because they were essentially, nothing more than a way of crowdfunding, right? Crowdfunding from the more average, novice, unknowledgeable investor. That's really it. And once the bull market started fading away, you realize like, oh shit, these projects aren't actually doing anything. They're just raising money because they just want to get in on the swing of the market. Right. And then after, and I think it was a few weeks ago where the SEC actually made a provision where ICOs, I think, they classify them as securities.
I saw that it was like a Texas judge or maybe a New York judge or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was a New York judge. But, that kind of goes to show that there's, I mean, at the level of the law, in the eyes of the law now, it's slowly becoming clear what exactly this market has been about for the last, 10, 12 months. And, obviously the when it comes to the legal system, it works slow, very slowly, but it does, work swiftly when it comes to cracking down on, bullshit like what's happened in the ICO game, because tons of people, obviously, as you guys very well know, have lost their money. We went from a market cap of $844 billion to now close to 200, right? So, I mean, 600
billion.
billion.
Made out like a bandit, right?
Exactly.
Quite literally.
Well, here's the thing. If you put $1 billion into Bitcoin, it doesn't mean the market cap of Bitcoin is only going to rise by $1 billion. If you put $1 billion fresh new capital into Bitcoin, this market cap is going to possibly double, Yeah. I don't think that there's that many. Right now, what's happening in the market is things are feeding into itself, almost like an Ouroboros, it's just regurgitating and then feeding into itself, regurgitating, re-feeding itself. That's all that's happening right now in the market. There's no fresh capital that's really coming in right now. Yeah,
I agree. No, that's the point. I mean, that's something that we talked about a little while back is my 8 rules of for the next bull market, right? We need a reason for the average retail investor to get excited as they were maybe middle of last year or end of last year. There's nothing to be excited about right now. I mean, if anything, people think that crypto and Bitcoin is dead. Everyone talks about like, oh, isn't Bitcoin down like 70% or something? I'm like, yeah, but it's done that before. Yeah. But the thing is, it's like the average retail investor just doesn't know that there is such a thing as a crippling bear market. And when it comes to bear markets, like it almost looks like you dug the grave for whatever asset that's thriving, but then it comes back alive and it gets even stronger. And that's kind of how I think Bitcoin and crypto space is. It's resilient, it's strong, it's disruptive, it's innovative, and if you give it enough time, and mass adoption, use cases from other projects that actually start coming out alive, where the average retail investor, consumers, corporations, they start using it. Then you'll start seeing more fresh money being thrown into the market. But that's not going to happen, at least for maybe like 6 more months, maybe a year. But by then, that the whales, institutional investors, they will have accumulated enough at significantly cheap prices.
Right. So while we're on that subject, I mean, mass adoption specifically, I just spoke at a panel about social media for mass adoption this weekend at the Litecoin Summit. It was interesting to hear a lot of people's perspective on what does that mean. So I would ask that question to you guys. What does mass adoption mean to you guys? Like, what do you think is the point where, I'm not even going to say when, because people had speculated that 2020 back at the bull market, then in the down market they say maybe another 5 years is the word, but ultimately, regardless of when, what do you think it means? Like, what does mass adoption mean to you?
Okay, so let me answer this one first because I got a good answer. How many people in this who are watching right now or how many people who are watching this right now have actually ever bought something with Bitcoin? And the answer will be maybe 5 to 10%. And I ask this everywhere. Every panel I speak on, every conference I go to, every talk I give. And recently I've been giving a lot of talks, a lot of talks, and the answer is always nil to very few people, who actually have a spending habit with Bitcoin. And that being said, a lot of our fans in this group, we're pretty hardcore here. We're pretty crypto gun ho. Yep. So maybe we don't have the best population, but if you go to the general public, even if you go to these crypto conferences, where everyone is crypto focused, no one's spending Bitcoin like they do cash. Right now, it's just an investment vehicle, right?
Yep. I think, and this was something they were talking about at the Litecoin Summit. They were like, a lot of the people in the crowd, they were saying like, why would I spend my Litecoin now? Because if I bought it now at $25 or whatever they bought it at, why would I spend it as a currency now when I think it's going to go up later? Which is that's a real valid point, right? I mean, if we're trying to use these things as an investment vehicle, it does not make sense to actually spend it and go out and utilize it for Satoshi's vision. So, how do we change that? What's it going to take for the masses to stop using it as just a speculative vehicle and more as what its intended purpose is?
So Andre Antonopoulos also says a really cool thing is what is mass adoption to him? It's when you stop thinking like, hey, a gallon of gas is $3.50, right? And then you start saying a gallon of gas is 50 Satoshis. When you start valuing everything in Satoshis, that's when we really hit mass adoption. But I don't expect that happening anytime in the future. 15, 20, maybe 30 years, when fiat is completely replaced. But who knows if Bitcoin's the one to do it, But that being said, I think a digital currency is going to come in within the next 5 to 10 years that will revolutionize this entire space.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point, Snay. No, Andres definitely has some really good points in how he.
Oh, I'm all frozen.
And there's a really good people out there that have. Oh, am I good?
Yeah, you're good. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so one other thing that I read, and I forget who the author was, maybe it was like Saifuddin Ammous. They talk about how the average, currency, any currency that you see, through its track record, right? Whether it was gold or beads way back in the day, whatever, form of currency that ever existed. Okay. First, it used to be, in a sense, a store of value, right? It used to be seen as something of an investment, if you will, because people would say that, okay, I'm going to keep this in my possession because I'm scared that, someone else might steal it, or I think that it will appreciate over time. And then same thing happened with gold, right? People would say that, hey, I'm going to just keep this because I understand that gold is an appreciating asset. And then people started using it as a form of exchange, right? People started exchanging gold bars to be able to buy cows and cattle and food and houses, whatever. But then, gold got replaced with certificates, and the certificates got replaced with paper currency. And now we're seeing, the same thing with paper currency being almost disrupted with digital currency because it's faster, it costs less. However, right now, digital currency is going through the same transition because we see it right now as an investment vehicle rather than a form of exchange, because not everything could be a form of currency. Okay, Litecoin cannot also be a form of currency just as Bitcoin is. Right. Same with Ethereum. They're going to have different purposes. And I think, all these solutions out there, they are solutions made for potential problems that we may not even have, right? And that's where crypto is kind of lost right now. It needs to find its place in society, its need for existence. And I think that's why we're seeing some of these projects, be, pounded to death because no one sees the point of it, right? Bitcoin clearly has a use case. Its sole purpose is to provide a deflationary currency with, almost instant transactional speed across the world, inconfiscatable. However, you cannot peg Ethereum the same way as Bitcoin, nor can you do the same for Litecoin. So it's now there's, all these solutions trying to go for the same problem, but the problem that they're aiming for is something that Bitcoin's already solving. So now you're seeing the perishment of these garbage bullshit currencies.
No, I completely agree.
So do you see room in the space? Okay, so say Bitcoin is let's just say that becomes the peg, right? Do you see room in the space for things like, Monero or Zcash or anything like that? Because Bitcoin doesn't have the privacy function. It could be added at some point down the road, but do you think it needs to be separate? Because obviously, Monero is very different than Bitcoin.
I don't think privacy coins is the way to get mass adoption. I don't like the facet of privacy coins, and I've drastically changed my opinion from almost a year and a half ago, just dealing with lawyers and lobbyists and IRS implications and the way companies are thinking right now. Is I don't think Coinbase will ever implement any sort of ZK snarks or ring signature enabled cryptocurrency. Why? Because it's just not good practice for them. It just doesn't benefit them whatsoever.
Well, it 100% goes against KYC and AML laws, which is a real problem here in the United States.
And it's just a big IRS no-no. Yeah. You can't see where it's going anytime or any place. That's why you'll never see a security token that has stealth features ever, right? You'll never see that whatsoever.
Totally makes sense.
So you need to track that asset where it's going. So I honestly don't think that we should be putting emphasis on things like ZK snarks. Yes, for dApps. Yes, privacy is a big issue for dApps. But for currency, equity, or any sort of dividend structure that does, or any sort of backing structure like gold backing, cryptocurrencies like Digix style, sure. You don't need that quote unquote privacy feature, because I don't think it really helps the problem whatsoever.
Well, what about, say, for instance, in the case of the argument that I hear about this one a lot is, but if I have a list of employees that I want to pay, or if I've got a business and I've got a number of people I've got to pay with it, maybe they don't want their salaries broadcast across the entire network where everybody can see it, because it's pretty easy to figure out. I mean, even with Bitcoin, if you had a 10 Bitcoin salary, if I'm sending you that Bitcoin all the time, you still have to pull it out to fiat at some point, at least for now. So it's pretty easy to tell which what bank account that goes to and figure out who that is.
No, it's not. If you use a deterministic wallet, so what's a deterministic wallet? A deterministic wallet means it has one private key and not an infinite, but I think it's 256,000 different public addresses. So all those different public addresses feed into one private key. So honestly, it's impossible to tell what your private key is because you obviously have it hidden, and it's impossible to tell, hey, where's this money going? Whose account is this actually in, right?
Fair enough.
So you could definitely do it that way.
But then you've got the rich list for a number of different tokens. Like they can go see what wallets have it. I mean, you don't think that with a reasonable amount of detective work that they'd be able to back trace it? I mean, isn't that what the IRS is putting together an entire department to do?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. The IRS should be able to do that. But should Joe Blow from, Tennessee be able to do this? No. And I don't think he will be able to do this because that amount of detective work is near impossible.
Yeah.
If anyone is ever bored, go to keys.lol. Everyone, you can go to that website right now, keys.lol, and keys.lol shows you every single private key. Here, let me share my screen. Actually, this is actually interesting because I think that people will be very, very confused, worried, skeptical, and then I'll show you how many different combinations there are. And I'm going to share my screen. How do I share this thing? Okay, there it is. Share screen. Start. All right.
There we go.
So now I'm going to say random Bitcoin keys. This is every single key in existence. This is how many pages there are. And so this is every single key. And that's pages. That's how many pages there are. And now you can just hit the dice button, and sometimes you'll see some transaction history. But this is 2 to the 256 addresses. 2 to the 256. So that's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, 256 times, right? It is. You will never find a Bitcoin address. That's how secure it is. This website shows. Even though it has your private keys are on here. Your private keys are 100% absolutely on here.
Oh, there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Your private keys are on here, but you'll never find. Watch me find one, and I have like 1,000 Bitcoin, and then we shut off the stream, and then I go missing. Then I go missing, and no one knows where I am. And like, yeah, I found 1,000 Bitcoin. Bye, guys. But yeah, that's how secure it is, and I don't think that, of course, Bitcoin is traceable, as you broadcast the signal onto the network. But I don't find it too big of a worry, in my opinion, that it has no privacy features.
With pseudo anonymity, at least. But yeah. I guess I didn't realize that there was this many possibilities. So that certainly makes it way more difficult than I'm willing to put the effort into.
When I get bored, I actually go here and I try. So he has 0 Bitcoin, but like here, for example, I'll show you something that all the way in the back, you'll see some. So for example, this one's yellow, or this one's yellow right here. 15 transactions. Obviously, someone just drained that account, but. That's how hard it is to get anything out of this website or anything randomly guessing Bitcoin addresses.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so ridiculously hard. And sometimes I just get lost. You know how people count sheep? Well, I count Bitcoin addresses. Before I go to sleep or I can't fall asleep, I just hit random a bunch of times. Pretty soon, I'll be able to drain all of Jason's funds out of his account.
One of these days. I'm gonna turn it all into Monero quick.
Yeah.
Okay, so while we're on that subject, then, have we seen the end of ETH? Do you think we have seen the end of ETH?
No.
Like price dumping wise, or?
Oh no, I mean, well, that too. I mean, do you think we've seen the end of the fall off? Because it went back over 200 and then bounced right back down. I don't know if it's. I haven't looked at it in a couple hours, but
it's like 96 or something.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, no. I mean, this is something we talked about a little while back, right? Like, there's as long as Bitcoin stays in the $6,000 range. See, here's something interesting, right? When Bitcoin created lower highs like 17K, 11.7, 10, and then 8.5, and then 7.4, all these lower highs that were created, right? Ethereum actually would start moving significantly. Okay, and even if Bitcoin went down, all the way till 6,000, right? Every time, which is done 4 or 5 times now, correct? Mm-hmm. Ethereum, at least the first 2 or 3 times, would maintain, somewhat of a decent comparison to Bitcoin. Yep. I think it was sometime it was 600 or 800, and then it was 600. And now what's happening is even if Bitcoin goes down like $10, Ethereum is affected by $10 multiplied by a factor. It's significantly more that Bitcoin goes down percentage wise, and same with the altcoins. And so I think that as long as Bitcoin even hovers around anywhere close to 6,000, Ethereum will just keep going down. So Bitcoin's like the the party pooper that's literally taking the fun out of the crypto space, right? It's literally sucking the air out of it. And Ethereum is the first to get choked, because it's the second leader in market cap, I think, right?
Right. Yeah, I think it's unless it's changed, it's been Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple for quite some time.
Yeah.
So what I think is most people use Bitcoin as a means to exit into fiat.
Yep.
Or as a means to enter into altcoins, or as a means to enter into a pegged cryptocurrency like Gemini. Yeah, what do you think about the Gemini dollar, guys?
I trust it a lot more than I trust Tether. I think the Winklevoss twins are I mean, first of all, they're in America, so they're beholden to following the laws of the United States, since they are American citizens and they are pegging it against an American currency. Also, they're trying to push forward their ETF. No matter how many times it gets denied, they'll try it again. And they are operating Gemini, which has been, I don't think I've ever heard anything bad about Gemini except that it took a long time to get approved for an account. You guys, have you heard anything?
Yeah, I can tell you one right now. It's that they're slow as molasses.
Just a little, no liquidity, or what do you mean? Support slow?
First of all, they don't have, margin trading like Coinbase or GDAX. Is that correct? I believe that's correct. They just have a simple order book, right? Just like GDAX does, but of course GDAX has a lot more options that you could give it. But and their whole buying experience. So when you buy on Coinbase, you're actually not participating in the order book whatsoever, right? There's an algorithm in there that actually buys the Bitcoin for you and locks in that price for, I believe it's 2.5 minutes. It locks in that price, and then they overcharge you to guarantee that price, right?
They're charging you a premium.
Right, they're charging you a premium, and it is, even though it sounds shitty to us traders, hey, wow. I'm getting charged way more for my Bitcoin, but I think it's good for the mass public. Hey, I just want to buy 1 Bitcoin, or I just want to sell 1 Bitcoin. You're able to do that very, very easily, very, very simply on Coinbase. But on things like Kraken or Gemini, they have a very, very slow process. Limit orders, you have to wait for your transactions to get filled and things like that.
Yeah, I've got a Gemini account, but I've never actually traded on it because it took so damn long to get it approved. I just became comfortable with a number of other exchanges. So
Gemini means 2 people, right? Twins. So it takes twice as long as it does on Coinbase. That's how I see it.
Gemini is actually a trusted exchange. Yeah. One, because it's been operating for a fairly long time, right? Also, the CBOE futures are actually pegged to Gemini prices. So clearly, it's obviously I don't really give a shit about the CBOE, but the fact that they trust Gemini to give them a reporting on their prices clearly means something. That means that they're a pretty reputable source.
So
And for the ethos of the space, I feel like the Winklevoss twins, they actually do believe in the crypto space, right? They're not just they're not businessmen, right? Well, they are businessmen, no doubt, but they do believe in the ideology behind Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper, right? They do believe in the peer-to-peer cashless system. Yeah, there you go. Peerless would be nobody. That's our robot overlords.
So what do you think about, DB in the chat just says the code for GUSD authorizes stops and asset freezes. What are your thoughts on that? I'm not a particularly big fan of that, but also I understand that you've got to comply with KYC and AML.
You have to, if you want this space to grow, you have to comply with the regulatory laws that have binded traditional financial institutions and fiduciary responsibilities, right? I don't think that they'll they're a good company. I don't think they're going to go out and decimate the market or just freeze your account all willy-nilly. I don't think even on our cryptocurrency, I've seen Coinbase do freezes, I've seen Kraken do freezes, I've seen Binance and Poloniex do freezes, but I've never seen Gemini really taking advantage of a customer, and they have good customer support.
Yeah.
Let's see here. We got a lot of people in here. Okay, so it looks like we do have a number of people in here that have been talking about. Yep, we have been buying things. Purchased some soap with Ethereum. Bought Bitcoin related stuff. Hardware wallets with Bitcoin. Icon says he bought a used wife.
Bought a used wife.
I hope you got a good deal on it, Icon. Let's see. Yeah, bought some miners from Bitmain. Oh, how about that? Okay, so I was actually watching Cryptos R Us, just skimming through one of his shows from today, and he was talking about, he read something saying that Bitmain may go bankrupt by 2020 or something. Have you guys heard anything about this? I love a rumor, so.
Well, Bitmain deserves to go bankrupt for trying to pump up Bitcoin Cash. Honestly, they do deserve to go bankrupt, and if they go bankrupt, that's great. That leaves more mining equity to the rest of us.
Considering they've got such a large portion of the mining hash,
I think it's like 35% or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. It might not be a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't really know about them going, bankrupt. I actually thought it was the other way around, where they were actually trying to go public.
Well, that I heard as well, but that's why I just heard this. I can't remember what it was. I was just listening to him in the background while I was typing emails. So, but I just thought that was an interesting thing. I was like, Bitmain, wait a minute. I thought they were one of the biggest companies around right now, and yeah, there was a bunch of rumors about them going IPO very recently. So. I just wondered if anybody else had heard anything about that. I'll have to do a little bit more digging.
Yeah, and actually, from legal representation, what I've actually been hearing is Bitmain and all these mining pools are going to be severely regulated within the next 6 months to a year. Because think about it this way, okay? If you're accepting Bitcoin on your website, it is your problem to know your customer. Each merchant, it's their problem to know their customer, which I find ridiculous. Does anybody know where my $100 bill is going?
I can go into. That's insane, because I can spend cash with no problems. You don't have to KYC me, and if I bring $10,000 in cash in, well, $9,099 in cash in. Yeah, I can put it in the counter in a briefcase, put it in, buy whatever it is that I want. Any purchase over 10K, they've got to report, but that's ridiculous, especially if you're talking about small transaction amounts. If you're a couple $100 or whatever the Satoshi value equivalent is for a plane ticket or something like that, that's crazy.
No, I agree.
So JK says bought Coinigy with Bitcoin. Nice, great. Ivan Paredes has a question: Loopring or Komodo? I don't know enough about Loopring to say that, so my pick would have to be Komodo. But I don't know. What do you guys think on that one?
I believe they're both trying to solve atomic swaps, but Komodo is already live.
Right.
So what do you know what atomic swaps are?
It's basically exchanging gift cards on your blockchain.
Atomic swaps are an exchange that act on your behalf. So if essentially what like Changely or Shapeshift is doing.
Yeah.
Right. It's exactly. It's kind of bogus how they're doing it. It is an exchange, but I thought what atomic swaps were supposed to be meant was that, hey, the smart contract data, the metadata. So, for example, if I say, hey, through the blockchain, Alexa, turn off the living room, I would be able to do that, right? And through the blockchain, and my blockchain would sync with other people's blockchain.
That's what I thought as well after that big interview that Sam did back in January with Charles Hoskinson. That was exactly the impression that I had, was that the code would actually be interacting, and that it would somehow write in and cross transact between. So the way I had envisioned it by his explanation was that if I had Ethereum and the merchant only accepted Dash or whatever, that could be transacted upon via Cardano.
So that's why they're programming everything in Haskell. Their core code is programmed in Haskell, which is not an intermediary code. Haskell doesn't rely on library function. All right. Yeah. Anyways, Haskell.
No, go on. Now tell me about this. This is what I want to know.
Haskell has like 100 developers like on the planet. I don't know anyone who develops in Haskell, so I don't understand much of it. Honestly, I actually I met this guy. He's a product manager for IOHK, which controls Haskell and controls Cardano and Ethereum Classic, and he was telling me all about this, and I had like a 30-minute discussion with him. He told me to buy a book on Amazon, so I guess I'll buy a book on Amazon. But it is Haskell is a very difficult language to understand, and it's very, very archaic. And there's like 100 expert developers out there, so that's always interesting. Well, what is your opinion on Haskell, man, Amal?
I actually don't know much about Haskell, but you know what? That is almost similar and analogous to what Ethereum is doing with what is their language aside from Go? They use something else. Solidity, right? Yeah. So it's like these complex, not as mainstream programming languages that some of these products are using. I feel like that's going the wrong way if you really want to have more mass adoption, because if you want more developers who are friendly with the average mainstream programming language, they may be able to help further advance your project at a rapid rate. And having something like Haskell or Go, Solidity, etc., you're essentially creating roadblocks and barriers to essentially let your project, advance.
Agreed. That's actually why I liked Lisk when I first heard of it, because I was like, oh, it's with what is it? It's JavaScript and Python, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, there's millions of devs that know those languages in the world. So that I was like, oh, this should hopefully help drive adoption.
Yeah, but you actually have to build it, right? Look at Stratus. Stratus is there's C#. Right? And C#, not everyone should know that, but most people know C#, right? Who have a decent programming background. It's really, really not different from, or the library functions aren't very different from, for example, C++. Mm-hmm. It is obviously different, but it's still you still have to build it at the end of the day, right? And Solidity, there's if you go to San Francisco and you look at jobs for Solidity devs, you'll be making over $200,000 a year if you're a good Solidity developer, right? So it's obviously in demand, and I think it's not a bad language whatsoever. And they have just like for JavaScript they have Vue and React.js. Solidity has Truffle, which is almost identical to these frameworks.
Right.
These pre-built libraries, right? So, I don't find it too much of a deterrent, but Haskell is the one that really throws me off because there's like 100 people on this planet that know Haskell.
Yeah, that's a real problem if your lead dev gets sick and then there's literally no one to replace him.
Yeah, exactly. It's like what's my favorite color, and if you don't know my favorite color, your funds are lost. It's like Ready Player One, really.
Yeah.
It's like Ready Player One. That's what Cardano is doing.
So there we've got DB wants to know, what is Monarch programmed in, if you can disclose it.
We just so what we're doing right now is we're just taking securities. We're a custody solution for securities. We have our broker-dealer license. It's going pretty well, actually. We're just continuing. If you use Mu, delete Mu and move everything over to Monarch because it's easier.
It's a way better wallet, I can tell you that for sure.
Yeah. But I don't want to be I don't want to be a shill here, but it's a great project, and we have a couple huge meetings, and we're going to be releasing some more token support, specifically in the arena of security tokens, and we'll also be releasing some crypto to fiat gateways as well. So that's obviously pretty exciting as well. Yeah.
That's gonna be huge.
Right. So we'll finally be able to compete with the likes of Coinbase by using Coinbase.
JK says, where does it stop? Because blockchain is open source. Can't get a feature you want, fork it. So let's talk about that a little bit. That's something. So I'm historically not a huge fan of private blockchains, but I do understand why. So with Hashgraph, they patented that, right? Like Lehman Baird took that and patented it. And I know you're not a big fan of it. I was pretty blown away by it, just the concept of it, except the fact that it's pretty centralized, and permissioned blockchains kind of defeats the purpose of decentralization, right? Thoughts on that, guys?
Well, here's where I'm coming from. Okay, forking the code, I think, is always going to be there, but I don't think it's a deterrent to the exact situation. For example, if you had a burger, right, just a regular burger, bun, a patty, and another bun right beneath it. If you fork it, you could just say, "Hey, I'm going to remove the buns. I'm going to remove the patty." It's no longer a burger. Now it's a beef patty, and now it's a bun, right? So forking the code, I think forking the code will always be forking any sort of coin will always be prevalent, but I don't think it's ever going to deter or manipulate society. Right now I think forks are fake news. That's what I feel like.
Yeah, it's very funny, actually. Speaking of forks, and I think most forked coins are bullshit. I don't usually touch any of them. But at the Litecoin Summit, everybody knows how I feel about Litecoin. And then there was Litecoin Cash at the Litecoin Summit, and I just thought that was hilarious because they were trying to actively take the stand. Like, they were there and they were shilling hard.
Did they say they were the real Litecoin?
They were trying to say no, they didn't. It was actually funny because we know how Roger Ver constantly goes around crowing about Bcash and making it that's always the issue. But they took the opposite stance. The Litecoin Cash people, they were like, no, we're trying to support Litecoin, which I thought was interesting. But then I'm like, well, why did you fork it then if you're trying to support it? It doesn't make any sense. Cash grab, maybe.
It is. It is. I think airdrops of any nature, or forks of any nature, is a cash grab, but it's a proportional cash grab. If you're not pre-mining or pre-staking, you can't really say it's a cash grab, right? If I just fork Bitcoin, and I do a simple change to the code, and I want to double the supply, right? 21 million in supply, max supply, and I want to make it to 42 million, right? Well, everyone will have a proportional amount of to their Bitcoin. So is that a cash grab?
Same amount of Bitcoin cash as I had Bitcoin at the time.
Right. So I think the real culprit behind Bitcoin Cash is Bitmain, right? Where what they're trying to do is they just keep buying and selling Bitcoin Cash to kind of create fake volume and fake use case.
Oh yeah, totally.
DB's asking me to shill the AI project that I was so pumped on, so I'm going to actually just jump in here and say that was canceled. So I still think the tech is super fantastic, but that got canceled. That was I guess I can say the name now. It was lit by Satori. I was so blown away by what the technology was. But there was a whole bunch of infighting between the CEO because they're owned by Machine Zone Games. There was a bunch of infighting between the CEO and Machine Zone, and they ended up canceling the ICO. So the tech still exists, but I don't know what they're going to do with it. But that's why I hadn't talked about it, was because I knew it got killed. So.
Hey, Jason, you want to know another project that will fail? Hashgraph.
Yeah.
That will fail. That will fail. Everybody, just mark my word, that will fail. You know, no institution will ever adopt something that only you can't run a full node on it. You just can't. It's statistically impossible unless you just continue adding, new hard drives or new drives of memory, because it just holds so much memory.
So,
right?
But with that, so I listened to the what's Frederick Munawa's podcast, Blockchain Innovation. I listened to one with Lehman Baird a couple of times, just trying to wrap my mind about what the hell was a hash graph. And so he's pretty convinced that the math works on the consensus algorithm. And so the way it sort of occurred to me was that the timestamps that they're using sort of act like a node, like a fixed node. I don't know. I don't.
Yeah. So think of Bitcoin like it's coded in binary, right? Think of it coming in as a piece of paper, right? An X and a Y, right? You're absorbing information in 2D. Hashgraph is you're absorbing information in 3D, essentially, right?
Right.
You're absorbing all this information in 3D. It's kind of a weird example, but obviously it has a lot more data-intensive processes that you can run on it. Therefore, it has incredibly high transaction throughput. But to me, I don't think that I just don't think that it's ever the closed source nature of Hashgraph and the fact that it does have a huge throughput. That's why I do like some blockchains. Like VeChain has a use case. Yep. And I'm not saying, hey, VeChain should be a dApp. No, Ethereum cannot handle supply chain logistics. It can't, right?
Right.
But things like, but there's a lot of scaling options. Like if you look at GoChain, which is Ethereum's, it's an Ethereum scaling option. Uh-huh. It's incredible. 1,000 transactions per second, I believe, right? So it's super fast compared to Ethereum. It's not that fast when you compare it to for example, Hashgraph or Holochain or any of these other delegated proof of stake chains, but it's still a scaling solution with a verifiable audit trail. While as these delegated, like for example, EOS has 20 delegates. Cardano is going to be launching with 1,000 delegates. I don't know how the hell they're going to launch that, but it's always going
to be like a ring, like a rotating ring of delegates making the decision, or
I don't know. All I know is ARC. I love bringing this up. ARC. ARC's #1 delegate is 4chan.
Yeah.
It's always good, right?
Yeah.
Always good.
That's the nature of decentralization. Is you got to give the Nazis a voice too. Unfortunately, no, not the 4chan's Nazis, but.
Yeah. Bad about 4chan, all right?
I'm not talking bad about 4chan. I'm talking bad about Nazis.
YouTubers who have made that mistake. 4chan is a wonderful place.
Yeah, I'm not talking bad about 4chan. In fact, I'll tell you one thing. The most impressive thing, I think they're just like the supreme troll community because I don't know if you guys heard about this.
It's anonymous, man. It's completely anonymous, man. No one can track you. There's no upvoting, downvoting. No one gives a shit about their profile. Yeah. It's just pure honesty. It's pure honesty and pure trolls. bulls.
Did you see what they did to Shia LaBeouf?
This place.
Like,
What?
he will not divide us. The Shia LaBeouf, he will not divide us. And they kept like, he went, dude. Okay, this is totally non-crypto, but it's totally worth the story. The basic version is he kept having this display, this like art show. He will not divide us. He will not divide us about Trump. And they kept moving it around because people kept coming and defacing it. So he finally takes it out. He just makes this flag out in the middle of this field somewhere in the middle of nowhere. And 4chan users, they like got together. They figured out the flight patterns that were going overhead and figured out where the flight paths were. Then, because of that, figured out like they triangulated the position, and a bunch of them went around.
Yeah, you don't fuck with 4chan.
Honking their horns until they found the flag and defaced the flag too. So that is why you never troll 4chan, because they will come get you. It's so crazy.
Yeah, hide your kids, hide your wife, dude. That's what it's like. But do we want to go over the charts now?
Yeah, except I can't bring it up because I'm sitting in front of the green screen, and so if anybody else wants to pull it up, and let's take a look.
Amal, you want to share your screen?
Yeah, I got it.
Cool. Oh, you can share your screen, Jason.
Oh, but I am sharing the screen. Oh, I guess I would have just pulled up the browser if I was not being a dummy. Let me also get this out of the way. All right.
Oh, no, Amal's already shared.
No, I was just moving the chat out of the way for the screen.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, here we are after that big old dump of a candle.
What's happening there? Is it just, does it keep trying to test 6,500 and dumping? Is that what's happening?
No, so this move right here was really interesting, right? Because basically this entire move right here was created on the basis of this rejection by the bulls, okay? The $6,120. And because of that, let me see the candles real quick. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so this one right here, right? This big fat red candle that came at the end of, this entire, let me see. Let me zoom out of here real quick. Okay, so this candle right here, right? We dumped all the way down to 6,120. And then this move right here was created because the bulls rejected to let the price go any deeper. So, as I told you guys, my max target would have been 6,800 because there's a lot of confluence. Let me show you guys. There's Ichimoku Cloud, Tenkan. I'm pretty sure the Bollinger Bands were meeting there. I'm pretty sure the 50 and the 100 were meeting there. It was all meeting right around the $6,800 level. Sorry if you guys hear my dog.
I even think the Fib retracement level hit there as well.
Yeah, the Fibonacci retracement hit right around 6,900. Yeah. So like all four of these lines converge there, and a Fibonacci level converges there. And on top of that, we've essentially been creating lower highs all the way back from 11.7K. So I'd figure after a move to 7,400, $1,000 drop, at least close to 1,000 would have been something that Bitcoin has been following. So 6,800 would have been my max. I guess it just dumped at 6,600. But now the interesting thing is we're kind of again testing this zone right here. Holy shit! Sorry, I got a lot going on.
Indicator overload.
Yeah, I just have typically a lot of trend lines and stuff.
Yep.
So basically, we're retesting this 6250 right here, which actually met us way back. Let's see, way back here. Okay, you see where the purple line touches these two candles right here?
Yep.
Right. So we use these as support. Also, a little bit right here. This sort of a spinning top or inverse hammer candle. So we met it 3 times, and then we kept moving up in this rising wedge. This was the move that took us to 7,400. So it's it's almost a necessity that this area gets tested again. Now we need to see if we will bounce off this level again, 6250, and move to the upside. Because if that's the case, that's a decent sign where we've created higher lows since back here in June. Right, because I think this is June right here. Yeah. Two big candles closed right around 5,800, but then after that, over here, we did not let candles close except just large wicks piercing through. And now we're again here back in September, essentially having another higher low. So if you look at, this compared to this, and now this, these are all clearly, higher lows, right? Because you can see the wicks just dipping down way far.
Yeah.
So essentially, on the daily, if this holds, this is going to be really interesting because I don't really know what to think of this move if 6250 holds. But again, I am still bearish on the larger term charts. Let me pull up my other BLX chart real quick. Oh shit. Stupid ass Bollinger Band.
Yeah, this I would have liked to see the weekly RSI drop a little bit, but it's still staying around, that 50 mark where it's around 45 right now. But it's kind of concerning. This we could be seeing. You called it. We could be seeing around. What do I have it at? 5,500. Very very shortly.
Yep. Yeah, 5,500. That's one of the levels, which is like, so if you see this move right here, right, these are two weekly candles at least, right, that bounced off each other right around, this low right here pierces to 5,500, and then we have this move straight up. This is way back in November, okay? That's why I'm targeting 5,500 as my next level. But ultimately, I think Bitcoin will consolidate somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000, at least for a few months, I think. And then we might start a bull cycle within the midst of a bear cycle. People won't realize that, oh, this is a bull cycle starting, but, I think our community will definitely know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Speaking of our community, if you guys haven't joined the Discord, please join the Discord. It is... there's a free lounge and there's a paid lounge as well, but feel free to join the free lounge or sign up for the 2-week trial and you get everything that your heart desires for 2 weeks. It's in the link below in the description. Yep. Check it out if you guys are interested. We're always trading. We're always in the group chatting. So let us know.
Yeah.
Or see you in there. Rather. Yeah.
Another interesting thing to point out real quick is this, ascending trend line right here. That's something that we've respected for a while. So it was resistance back here in 2011, then became support in 2013. We went all the way till December 2013, came back to the trend line, moved alongside of it, touched it multiple times, and then took off. And now I think we're trying to meet that trend line again, right? And that comes right around the somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 again, right? But that may not happen maybe until 2019.
Do you find any sort of problem when putting these things in a logarithmic scale?
You mean like on TradingView or?
Yeah. So right now you're in a log scale right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that deceiving somehow, or do you like it looking at it like that? Do you think we're still going in an exponential curve for Bitcoin?
Yeah, I definitely like looking at, especially longer time frames. I almost much prefer log scale because the linear is just too volatile, man. Like I can't even fit the candles in my screen.
Yeah, I have no idea what's going on in linear, so I'm right there with you. Especially like when you're at the 1 week time scale and you're just you're trying to draw these patterns and you're like, I don't know what's going on anymore because it's so incredibly volatile, especially over the weekly.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think monthly, it makes the monthly look good too, because we clearly see, a descending triangle being created, right? It's pretty obvious to say. This trend line goes all the way down, and then you have this flat sideways movement for multiple months. It doesn't have to be perfect, by the way. And the reason why this can't be a falling wedge is because there's not a deep enough slope. Typically,
it looks like a descending triangle.
A somewhat, more of a negative slope. And this one just doesn't. It's more so a descending triangle, and you typically do break the downside.
Yep.
So the next happening is 2020, is that correct?
I believe so,
Yep.
Yeah. Sam was talking about that recently.
So maybe we just keep plummeting until the next happening.
Oh, man, that would suck.
Yeah, let's hope not.
That would suck.
That would be.
Mr. Compton
Yeah.
says, "Where's the Indian guy?" I would just like to point out both Indian guys are on this stream right now. So, sir, I'm not sure which one you're referring to, but
He means Jordan.
yeah.
Yeah, we're all here, equally representing the Earth's population.
Yes, we're a diverse team, if nothing else.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
But like in the grand scheme of things, another bear market for a year or two, it sucks right now, because we all want to get rich right now. But in the grand scheme of things, it's really not that bad for a new asset class.
Well, I think it's hilarious too. It's like everybody got it. I mean, it's like the majority of people found out about Bitcoin during the bull market last year and just thought that it was supposed to be green candles forever all the time, and didn't realize that no, this is a financial market, and there's definitely some people out there that are just trying to take advantage of that ignorance.
Yeah.
I think it's like this for any emerging asset class. Like for example, I'll tell you this. Let's just look at the history of AR VR. Okay, Oculus was sold for $4 billion.
Yeah.
$4 billion. We haven't seen anything out of them for years now. Because there's a lot of hype, just like there was a lot of hype for crypto. And it's an emerging asset class. We know it's the future. We know augmented and virtual reality is the future. Sure. I don't think there is any debate about that, right? We know that technology is forthcoming, but it needs time to mature. It needs time for the markets to actually develop. It needs time for marketplaces, consumers to actually be educated about it.
I agree. I totally agree. Yeah, and people underestimate the time that it takes for technologies, emerging markets, especially ones that are so disruptive like AR/VR or blockchain technologies. People highly underestimate, how long it takes for them to mature. I mean, it's kind of like this, right? I always explain to people that if you knew about the internet in, the early 90s or mid 90s, would you be able to predict something like Facebook coming out of it, or Instagram, or social media, or the cloud?
Yeah.
All these things that have come about, it took a 10 to 20 year curve. But here's why I'm optimistic about blockchain. It's because the internet didn't have the internet back then to, ride off of. Blockchain has the internet. We have the speed, the capacity, the money, the people.
Google didn't have Google, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's
Hopefully
that's something
doesn't cut against us.
No, I mean, I think everything is perfectly in place for blockchain to take off, and I think it's just a matter of time, and people are going to slowly start seeing that.
Yeah, I think so too. It's just like anything else. I think a lot of people got in and thinking it was fast money, and occasionally it is. But by and large, really, this is just like investing in your stocks or real estates or precious metals or Forex or whatever it is that you're trying to. It's the same kind of thing. It's a long game. It's not a I put in 10K and I'm a millionaire next year kind of game. Occasionally it is if you're really lucky, but.
Yeah.
But that's what, since we are so connected by the internet, even adoption is much faster.
Oh yeah, it's
like a Pokemon was big because of TV, but the Tamagotchi, the Sock'em Rock'em robots, back in like the 60s, yeah. Those are, I don't even know when those came out. Those are a little bit before my time.
Yeah, those are before my time.
Yeah, exactly. So since we are so much more connected, if I have a cool idea like a fidget spinner, I could launch that into a multi-billion-dollar asset, overnight. It seems like, a lot of these privileges that we have that seem so commonplace to us, like Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Spotify. They've only been around for 3 or 4 years. And we've already grown so attached to them. So and we think that they've always been around forever, but
I panic if I leave the house without this thing. I'll turn around.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone here saw Joe Rogan and did everyone watch that Joe Rogan and Elon Musk?
Of course.
Yeah. So if you guys, it was like 3 hours, but if you guys watched it, one of the things that stuck with me is like we're already cyborgs, you know.
Yep.
We're already incredibly smarter, incredibly better. Maybe not faster or skinnier than our previous generations, but we are smarter, faster, and much more advanced just because of our phone. You know,
you can outsource half of what you remember. Here's a fun fact, or a fun trivia bit. Do you know how many phone numbers I remember these days? I know mine, and I know my grandma's because it's been the same since I was a kid. But like anymore, if it's every other phone number I know, my parents' phone numbers, even my girlfriend's. It's really embarrassing how few phone numbers I know, and it's just because I don't have to anymore. So it's freed up some space in our brains, I think, for other stuff, but could be detrimental if we get.
Yeah, you know what's really sad? Really, really sad. I know my phone number. I know 911, which is the emergency line in the United States, and I know the Comcast help phone number, the customer, because I called them so many damn times. So I got that ingrained in my head, which is really, really sad. It speaks volumes to how bad Comcast is, but yeah.
Let's see, we've got Google says Bitcoin has died 309 times. Exactly. So you'd be surprised how resilient this asset is. Let's see, we've got, although Dash user adoption and XRP XRapid institutional adoption could cause the market to explode this year even. I think so. I don't think Dash is getting massive adoption. I think Dash has a extremely massive burn rate on their advertising spend. Last reports I heard, Dash was almost out of money because they've spent it all advertising. I mean, to be fair, I've seen Dash advertised on almost every flight I've been on this year, in the screens on the plane. So I wouldn't be surprised if they burn through their entire raise just in advertising alone.
And Dash is garbage. Dash is super garbage, guys. Don't ever invest in Dash. It's a centralized currency, and it's really, really bad. And before you say that, I want to say BTC shorts are peaking again. I think that's pretty ridiculous that BTC shorts are peaking again. We've been sitting. I think we hit it once in April, once in August, and 2 times in September already. That we're almost at all-time high for shorts. I don't know what's going on there. Could you explain that a little bit, Amal?
Yeah, man. I actually talked about Bitcoin shorts in my analysis just this morning, I think. What I find interesting is if I were to understand, what the average retail investor is thinking just from looking at the shorts or, even the longs, right? Clearly, since way back here, or even like, the longs like all-time high, right? In April. I mean, the longs have essentially, as just like Bitcoin, created lower highs, okay? Yeah. Meanwhile, the shorts, they've essentially gained more and more power, more resilience, more strength, and they are just, balls to the walls going crazy because they know that there's no way, at least right now, that Bitcoin is going to start taking off. And these guys are going to make a decent amount of money until they just get short squeezed. Because some people, obviously someone's going to get too greedy. They're going to start shorting, when essentially the bull cycle has already started, but they won't know, and they're going to be on 100x leverage because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. And they're going to get their entire account wiped. But right now, for the most part, I mean, the shorts are just resilient. Like, they are not letting, they are not letting go, man. And that tells me that. Sorry,
go ahead.
Yeah, that just tells me that, the overall environment in crypto is just bearish. Whether you want to look at, the technology surrounding it, the SEC denials, the average retail investor not investing, more new money. It's just old money just being reshuffled, man. That's really it,
Yep.
So of course, you're going to see shorts just, spiking at all-time highs because they know the prices aren't going anywhere but down.
I mean, if you type in ETH USD shorts, you will cry. You will literally cry. So go ahead and type that in, and you will be amazed.
Yeah, I haven't looked at ETH US dollar shorts, but let's see right there.
I was going to say, these were at all-time highs like last week, I think.
And then, and then just type in, yeah, there it is.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, they're climbing, man. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. Ethereum is
and you're in the logarithmic scale right now. Take it out of the log.
Damn, this one weekly candle right here. Holy shit. This, yeah, obviously someone or a bunch of entities clearly just decided, like, hey, I'm going all out on Ethereum. Just
think about this. Think about this, okay? You know, Digix DAO, one of the earlier Ethereum projects out there. You know, I don't mind Digix DAO. I think it's a decent project. I think it's severely overvalued. Yeah. But Digix DAO liquidated 200,000 ETH, not dollars, 200,000 ETH just to keep the lights on last week. You know, so all these ICOs are hitting rock bottom, and just to keep the lights on, they're liquidating their ETH.
I've been saying that. People keep trying to tell me that's not happening. I'm like, these guys, there's a number of projects fire sailing their ETH because they're trying to protect their arrays.
Right.
Here, I got a question, because I actually saw, so, you know, I own some Digix DAO, and typically, like, you know, I'll get, you know, whether an alert or something from Reddit or Medium saying that, hey, there's a, you know, vote taking place on the DAO, but I thought the vote only took place, that they didn't actually sell it yet.
I read the first paragraph of an article. That's what I'll tell you.
Oh,
okay. So there's my fake news for the day, right?
Oh, that's funny.
So,
okay, fair.
So JK says, I meant Dash is Venezuela's go-to savior. Maybe so. I know they've been switching to crypto because they're tired of carrying wheelbarrows full of garbage paper around with them. Let's see.
Yeah.
He says, yeah, one reason
the Venezuelan dollar, a single Venezuelan dollar is cheaper. It's cheaper than toilet paper. So you literally use it like toilet paper.
Yeah, people are literally taking wheelbarrows in full to get like a loaf of bread. That's and that sooner or later could happen with the dollar. I mean,
it's already happened. It's already happened.
Well, they manipulate the interest rates, and they manipulate the you know, they just print more of them, which is why
I'm gonna tell you guys
today is worth nothing compared to what it was 30 years ago.
I'm gonna ask you guys a series of rhetorical questions. Okay, what is the oldest still in use currency on the planet?
Gold.
No, a currency, paper currency.
Oh.
Fiat. It's the British pound. Okay.
Yeah.
When the British pound first came out, 1 pound was worth 12 ounces of silver.
Yeah.
So now, if you value it right now, we've seen a 99.5% drop to what it was worth 400 years ago. Fiat currency always devalues.
Yeah.
Buy precious metal, buy stocks, and buy Bitcoin.
That's our closing thought.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that actually wraps it up. We've been on here for an hour and 20, so this is definitely not a succinct show, but tons of good information in here. Guys, if you enjoy this, everybody out there in internet land, if you enjoy this kind of content, smash that thumbs up, hit the notifications bell so you know when we go live. We're going to do this stuff regularly. I'm actually going to start bringing on guest appearances from other channels. Met a bunch of awesome YouTubers over the weekend at the Litecoin Summit, so we're going to start having other people come on, and it's going to be a regular thing. So if you guys like this, smash that thumbs up button and make sure to subscribe so that you know when we go live. And with that, guys, this is Jason Snay, and I'm off from Cryptosomniac. Keep your stop losses tight. We'll see you guys later.
Peace.